Hello everybody, welcome back to another Weather Central forecast. You guys are on a fantastic day. And today's forecast, we will be going over my second preliminary summer outlook. Now, in the near future, over the next couple of weeks, I will be making more of these as we do get closer to summer to just give you guys the most accurate information that I possibly can. There has been quite a bit of updates since our last forecast that I will be going over in this forecast. But I do want to start with a disclaimer that these forecasts are my opinion. They are based off of model guidance and past occurrences of weather. For the most accurate and up-to-date weather, please consult your local National Weather Service office, as they will have more accurate and up-to-date information than I will on these major United States weather events. I hope you guys do enjoy this forecast, and since we do have a lot to talk about, let's go ahead and get into it. So we're going to start off with looking at the CFS, and then we'll shortly be going over to the CANCIPS models, but we're going to be looking at this monthly, right? And so here is valid for May of 2021 here. You can see we have negative MSLP anomalies throughout the northeast here, and what that's really going to allow for, that also does make its way down into portions of the more northern Tennessee Valley there, and what that's going to allow for is a lot more low air pressure systems to really develop off to portions of, like I said, the more eastern United States. We do have present some, positive MSLP anomalies, and despite that low being there, what that really means is that you're going to have a lot more ridging over here, right? And what that's going to allow for is less moisture here, and that's going to be associated with more higher pressure systems, which brings some more sunnier and warmer conditions relative to the northeast, where you guys could be seeing somewhat of a stormy pattern and a very, very active pattern, to say the least, for summer there. So knowing that information, let's go ahead and go over to the April MSLP anomaly. And here you can see it shifts quite a bit to the east here. We can see really the only area that we're seeing somewhat of a below average MSLP anomaly is throughout portions of the Tennessee Valley here. And we have some very, very, decent high MSLP anomalies available for portions of the Rockies here. And you guys know the gist of it. It's going to allow for those higher pressure systems to develop. So some warmer and sunnier conditions and less stormy conditions for portions of the Rockies, even off to portions of the Midwest here, even down to the South Central, where you're seeing those slightly above average MSLP anomalies present. You can see we're starting to see some sort of maybe some active patterns setting up for portions of the Pacific Northwest, as well as we still are seeing a decent pattern still possible throughout portions of the Tennessee Valley, Ohio Valley, and Mid-Atlantic, since it really hasn't decided whether it's going to be positive or negative, which is a good sign as of right now for you guys. Now, we are really far out, so this is basically just speculation off of what the models are showing. But we can go ahead and go over to July here. You guys can see up at that top there. We're seeing some negative MSLP anomalies still for portions of the northeast all the way down to portions of the southern Tennessee Valley there. And that's really going to allow for those lows to develop, some more cooler, or I shouldn't say cooler, some more stormy conditions available for portions, like I said, the northeast all the way down to the southern Tennessee Valley there. Due to that negative MSLP anomaly, we're going to be seeing still around the Rockies some decent, stormless conditions, I guess I should say, according to what this would be showing. So it looks like, obviously this is 3 months out, so really the only things that we really have good confidence in is that May one, but this is still a long-range model, and it's showing it, so we can see possibly some sort of, less significant rainfall throughout portions of the west indicated by the CFS model due to those 3 month outlook. And you can see we're going to have some more active patterns setting up throughout portions of the southern Tennessee Valley all the way back up through the northeast, and that could even aid in some sort of tropical storms as well as we do get closer into the summer. Now we're going to the CFS's temperature anomalies for May. You can see it's pretty scattered and really doesn't define too much, but we can see with those negative MSLP anomalies, it's going to allow for some well above average moisture content up into portions of the northeast there. And what we're also seeing is where we did have those positive MSLP anomalies, we're seeing a correlation to that with being some less than average less than average precipitation due to that positive MSLP anomalies. You can see we might even see some below average temperatures throughout portions of the South Central, even into portions of the more southwestern part of the southeast there. So we're really going to have to take this in consideration when we're going to make my official forecast here, which you guys will see in just a moment. Going on to the June the June precipitation anomaly, you can see it really starts to set up that big pattern throughout portions of what I think will be very active, which is into that Tennessee Valley and Ohio Valley off to the mid-Atlantic. You can see that is where that very, very strong negative MSLP anomalies were present. And you can see maybe even some sort of above average precipitation throughout the Midwest, which could aid in some sort of severe weather, as you guys usually do start to see your severe weather season ramp up towards late May, early June, which you guys do also see some late into April, but generally it's more typical and common for it to occur within May to June. So that is, showing some signs of possible severe weather in the near future during summer. We also do see just generally above average precipitation throughout most of the United States here. We're not seeing too much of a general below average precipitation area for June, but obviously we're still so far out. We're really going to have to keep an eye out on this, though, as this could be setting up some good patterns throughout the summer in terms of severe weather and tropical storms. Now, going over to July here, you can see it still has that moisture throughout portions of the southeast all the way up through the northeast, which is making my confidence even stronger that you guys will be seeing some sort of above average precipitation throughout the summer months. You can see we're getting somewhat of a drier stage throughout portions of Montana eastward and westward by just a couple hundred miles, where you're seeing those intense below average conditions in terms of precipitation there. You can see generally throughout the south central, throughout the Midwest, nothing too crazy in terms of whether you're going to see above average or below average. It really just depends on the day, I guess I should say, the week, whether you're going to see above average or below average precipitation. Now, going over to the CFS's 2-meter temperatures for the month of May, you can see well above average throughout most of the United States. For at least over 2/3 of the United States, I would even say even up to 3/4 of the United States, under those slightly to maybe even moderately above average temperatures. You can see some regions in the United States staying equal chances as of right now. And that is for portions of the Pacific Northwest, all the way from the southeast, all the way up through the Tennessee Valley and Ohio Valley. So we're really going to have to keep an eye out on that. Going into June here, you can see it just in almost all of the United States is under some sort of above average temperatures. You can see just some slight areas that aren't, which is for portions of extreme southern South Dakota into northern Nebraska there, and for portions of Louisiana there, where you're seeing equal chances. But generally, it looks like as of right now, June is going to be a very, very hot month compared to your average temperatures. And that really is going to, like I said earlier, spark off that severe weather throughout the north for sure, between, those summer months, and even some possible severe weather events, even off to the Rockies possible, though it might be a little bit less significant since you will be in those elevated, higher changes of elevation within a couple hundred miles, you know what I mean? And then going into July here, sorry. I don't know if I said June or if I said July last time. I meant to say June, but this is the July temperature anomaly now that we're looking at. And you can see still, same story. July looks to be very warm throughout the United States. Almost all of the United States is still under some sort of above average temperatures, excluding some portions of Colorado into Kansas, and generally still the same portions down into Louisiana there, and some portions into New Mexico there. Still seeing those equal chances. Now going over to the CANSIPS model, so this is a different model from what we have been looking at. We are looking at our MSLP anomalies, and this is for the month of May here, as you guys can see. Now what this is showing is maybe some sort of ridging off to portions of the Pacific Northwest there, and generally negative MSLP anomalies present throughout the Rockies all the way through the South Central, all the way up to the Northeast, which is going to allow for an active pattern to set up somewhere within this region here that I just shaded in there. You guys know the general gist of it, where you're seeing those higher MSLP or negative MSLP anomalies is where you could be seeing your most active pattern, more lows to develop off of that, which usually your moisture gets associated around those lows, and these positives develop those highs, and those highs are generally associated with warmer temperatures and clearer skies, as though they could be associated with some sort of severe weather on it as well, but generally it is those nicer clear skies and warmer conditions. You can see we also do have some positive MSLP anomalies present throughout the southeast there, which could aid in some sort of, stoppage in severe weather for just a brief moment, or I should say a couple weeks possibly. Going into our June MSLP anomaly, you can see we're looking at generally same story compared to our last one, except it is getting brought up a little bit farther north and east than what the May one was advertising, and still showing that sort of southeast ridge that we were going over throughout that April outlook is still looking to be present throughout the summer as well, possibly. We're seeing some sort of positive MSLP anomalies throughout the northeast, which could aid in some less active patterns. However, that CFS was very, very, had some great confidence in this region being throughout, or having that, very active pattern. So it is kind of hard to believe that these models are still so much out of agreement, even though we're still somewhat close to summer at this point, or at least the beginning of it, which is around May something, I think. Don't quote me on that because I'm probably wrong. But yeah, so generally it is showing some sort of more active pattern setting up throughout portions of the Rockies off to the west coast there. So let's go ahead and go over to our July here. You can see it really brings all the United States under either equal chances or those negative MSLP anomalies, which I do think that'll be concentrated throughout this area more than likely as we do get closer to June and July. Those long-range models might get in somewhat more of agreements, but usually long-range models don't really get in too much agreements as they are long-range models and not short-range or medium-range models. But you can see they are setting up more of an active pattern throughout portions of the northwest there and even portions of the Ohio Valley there. And that could even set up some defined boundaries here where we could even see some sort of severe weather sparking off. Sorry, that is way too wide of a region there, where we could see some sort of severe weather, sparking off throughout there due to some of that moisture being on that front side here and some of that moisture being on that back side there, and that will set up a boundary between that warm and cold there. So let's go ahead and go over to the total our precipitation anomalies here. You can see it's setting up more of an active pattern throughout the northeast down to the southeast throughout the month of May, and generally bringing a drier conditions throughout the south central up into the southern Midwest there, and even still some drier conditions off to the west there, which we did kind of see in our CFS. So I do somewhat agree with this version of the model, but this is where it starts to really take turns from the CFS here. The CFS would have put a lot more moisture available throughout portions of the Ohio Valley, Tennessee Valley, up through the northeast. However, this one decides to differ from that and put that in equal chances to even below average precipitation just a little bit. And you can see we're starting to see a region throughout Missouri, or we could be seeing some moderately below average precipitation throughout the months of June there. So we're really going to have to keep an eye on this for sure, because this could possibly be the more accurate of the two, and it could be setting off maybe a less active pattern throughout the northeast rather than what I think. In this July, I also really don't agree with too much. However, it is starting to bring some sort of above average precipitation throughout the more northernest regions of the northeast here, but still bringing somewhat drier conditions throughout most of the regions, which I think will be the most precipitation impactful throughout these summer months. And it's still not showing too much significance whether it's going to be above average or below average precipitation, which is still throwing how much severe weather you will see still up in the air, as it will be either way because we're still so far out. But it's even making that question a little bit harder to answer at this point. So lastly, we're going to go over our temperature anomalies. You can see it brings a lot of warm air throughout portions of the more central and western portions of the United States. You can see we're seeing our highest concentration of warm temperatures throughout the Rockies, all the way up through Kansas and Nebraska there, and some cooler conditions off to the Pacific Northwest there. Moving us on to June. Sorry, I can't really talk right now. We're moving this on to June. As you guys can see there, it's still bringing those same general regions under above average temperatures. And still the whole United States practically is still under those above average temperatures. Just it's bringing that higher concentration of greater chances of above average precipitation, above average temperatures throughout those Rockies. I can't really talk today, guys, so I apologize if I'm all over the place. And then going into July here, you can see it really brings that above average temperatures off to the east there, and that could be sparking some severe weather if we get that warm moisture off of the ocean there, meaning with some of this warm moisture here, we get some sort of low to develop and really track along that northeastern coast there, we could be talking about some sort of strong storms, and it's generally putting warmer conditions off to the more northernest regions that we usually do see our severe weather in, so that also will aid in some of that severe weather. So now we're going over to my official forecast. Now this is going to be a long video, so I apologize 100% if you guys don't want to watch through this video. I totally, I totally respect your guys' decision, as this is a long video. So we're going over to my temperature anomalies here and what I believe could happen as of right now. So I'm expecting the Pacific Northwest off into portions of most of Montana to stay relatively below average in terms of temperatures. I think you guys will see warm-ups definitely, but I think you guys will predominantly see just slightly above, or slightly below average temperatures. Nothing too significant. I just think right now you guys are more favorable for slightly below average temperatures rather than warmer, but that definitely could change in the near future. Going on to this yellow region here is where I'm expecting as of right now to see maybe some slightly above average temperatures. And sorry, I didn't really talk about this white region here. This white region, if you guys don't know, is equal chances, which means there's not really a defined winner on which one I think at this point it will be. So going back to this yellow here, I think it'll be predominantly slightly above average. However, you could see those cool downs for sure. And I do also want to say that for all of the United States here, no matter what I'm saying, there is still chances for cool downs. I know people get mad when those cool downs do occur because I said that it's going to be warmer. I think overall it'll be warmer. I'm not ruling out cooler blasts of air plummeting down from the north. So just take that into consideration. If you do get a cool down, just know I warned you there. Going into this orange here, is where I'm expecting you could see some decently above average temperatures. And I think it could be noticeable on days. But generally, I think you guys could stay similar to this yellow region here. I just think you guys have the more favorable chance for above average temperatures. And then going into this red here is where I am expecting the hottest summer to occur compared to your normal average. And that is for portions of Texas into New Mexico, Colorado, Oklahoma, Texas, New Mexico, Colorado, Oklahoma, Kansas, and Nebraska is where I do expect that warmest compared to your normal average summer to occur. Now going over to my precipitation anomalies, I'm expecting very active pattern off to the northeast here. Wherever I am circling that in those darker greens here, as you guys can see, is where I'm expecting that even more active pattern to set up. And as for portions of Alabama, Georgia, South Carolina, into the more northernest northeast, you can see surrounding that I have a slightly above average precipitation forecast for that. And then over to the Pacific Northwest, I do have a slightly above average as well. And that is what I do believe, like I said, could be seeing slightly above average. Now going over to portions of Missouri, Iowa, Nebraska, into Kansas is where I'm expecting you could see some slightly below average. And that is just what some models were showing, that little slight isolated area of possibly below average precipitation. And then going off to the west in this yellow is the same situation as this yellow right here, slightly below average. And then going into this orange here is where I'm expecting you to see some moderately below average precipitation. And at times, I do think that you guys could experience droughts. And in general, I think that the regions that I'm circling here at times could experience droughts, as more portions of the United States could as well throughout the more scattered, isolated United States. But I do think that just localized, centered throughout this area right here, you could see your most decent chance of droughts occurring. So here is my official Weather Central Summer Outlook. Now, I'm sorry that this video is long. I know I've already said that once in this video, but let's go ahead and get into it. So you can see 4 portions of the Pacific Northwest here, even into portions of the southeast all the way up through the Tennessee, Ohio Valley, up into the northeast. I think you guys could see active patterns. Now, I'm not ruling out drier conditions at times, but I think generally you guys will stay towards a more active pattern compared to your normal seasonal average. Going off to this blue here, I'm expecting cold at times. However, I think you guys could see some very warm conditions at times. I just think those cold blasts will be significant enough to really make this region here cold at times rather than warm. And you guys will see that in just a second where I decided to put my warm conditions. I don't think it's too much of a surprise, as you guys can probably guess the color coding here. But off to the west coast here is where I'm expecting warmer than average conditions. Now, I do think, as you guys saw in those models, Most of the United States will stay warmer than average. I think that is your guys' biggest threat, as you guys really don't look to see much sort of precipitation throughout the summer. I think your guys' biggest concern will be those warm temperatures. Now going over to this brown here is where I'm expecting dry conditions. Like I was saying earlier, I expect that droughts could occur throughout these regions right here, for sure. Don't really know too much logistics on that because we're still so far out. But right now, more drier than average conditions is looking present right then. Going into this gray here is where I'm expecting average conditions, and that is for portions of Colorado down to New Mexico, into Texas, into some southwestern portions of Arkansas. They're seeing those average conditions. Now that, basically talks for itself. You could be seeing average conditions compared to your seasonal average. So that is basically temperatures and precipitation. Going off to this red here into this maroon here is where I'm expecting severe weather. Now let's go ahead and get rid of this text box here, so I can really show you this region here. In this red is where I'm expecting your general severe weather to occur. Maybe some sort of tornadic activity at times. Well, I guess it is mostly likely for this tornadoes to occur because that is throughout Tornado Alley. But I do expect your biggest severe weather, impacts to occur throughout portions of the Midwest, as that is really when your guys' severe weather really does spark up. As over the next couple of weeks, the South Central down here into portions of Arkansas, Oklahoma, Kansas, and Missouri could really be seeing their fair share of severe weather in the next couple of weeks. I do expect that to really transition and translate up north as we do move into summer there. Going into our next region, which is this yellow region, is where I'm expecting thunderstorms. Now, I'm sorry if you guys can't really see that because that yellow is very bright. But generally, your summer thunderstorms, now I'm not ruling out severe weather. I just think you guys will generally stay towards that thunderstorm side of things rather than that severe weather. But definitely, I think you guys will see severe weather this summer and possibly tornadoes throughout those regions up to the north. I just think it's not as significant as the more southern portions to the south of that thunderstorm region. That is why I did issue that severe weather throughout more southern regions compared to that thunderstorm risk. And lastly, we're going over to the east coast here all the way down to the deep south is where I'm expecting tropical storms and hurricanes. Now let's go ahead and get rid of that text box there. Where I have this darker shade of pink here is where I'm expecting most of your hurricanes to really occur. And that is for portions off to the Atlantic coast as well, more to that southern Atlantic coast, and then into the Gulf of Mexico. So if you guys, let's go ahead and draw a line out here. If you guys are close to these oceans here that I just shaded in there, not north of here, I expect that you guys will see hurricanes. Now, I'm not ruling out some sort of hurricanes developing off to more portions of the north. However, I don't think it is as likely as, it occurring throughout the Gulf into portions of the southern Atlantic. And in this lighter pink here, I do have where I'm expecting your tropical depressions and tropical storms and maybe isolated hurricanes happening at times. But generally, like I said, I think that this region here will stay within those tropical depression and tropical storm criterias rather than that hurricane criteria. So that is about it for this Weather Central forecast. And I know it was a really long forecast. Sorry if I was all over the place, but I did want to provide you guys with this information. So I hope you guys did enjoy this forecast, and I'll see you guys in the next one.